We are back. So, in the spotlight today, I've got Tyler Cole. He is an actor, director, producer, and I know you write as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, welcome
Thank
today.
you.
We're going to talk about where you come from, your film history, and you've got a movie that's coming out on Friday.
Yeah,
And
yeah. Really
and we're
proud
going to
of
talk
that one.
about that.
Okay.
We'll play some trailers and just get to know you and all about you. That's what it comes down to. So
It's all me. This is my
this is
hour.
all you. So man, let me
boy.
ask you first, because it's always interesting to hear people's like origin story. Like
Okay.
you've been in the film industry quite a long time. You
Yeah.
started younger, and you did the LA thing. You've done the work. So like, when was it? What was it when you were a kid that you were like, okay, I figured out my direction, where I'm going to go. I'm going to be a filmmaker, or I'm an actor. And then did that transition into something else, as the career moves forward? What was it? What was the spark that started everything?
Well, what's ironic is I've kind of been doing this my whole life. When I was really, really young, and my parents will remind me of this constantly, and so will my siblings, I would dress up as characters like Pee Wee Herman, Three Amigos,
Oh, I love that movie.
Batman. Yeah, right. Great stuff. And I used to just dress up as them before cosplay was even a thing. I would just get whatever cheapo stuff. I think I had a gray suit and a red bow tie, and I would do all the impressions. And so I did lots of impressions. And when
I do a good Pee Wee Herman too. We may have to do.
I think we can do it.
The off camera though. I don't know if I want to do it. It's been a long time since I've done Pee Wee, but I do a good Pee Wee Herman.
But really, where the hell's him down?
Oh God! All right, so that's my name. Don't wear it out.
That's my name, Francis. Don't wear it out.
Yeah. So it's weird. We come from that generation. I was born in 75. You were born in 85.
85, yeah.
But it's okay, because like those movies were very
I had
influential.
older siblings too. I'm the youngest of four, so like all of what they watched, I watched with them, and things I think were limited back then. We only had VHS barely after, what was that, Betamax or whatever the other
Betamax, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so I would watch those movies and got into them. And then I discovered you could do that for a living. Because as a kid, you just think this stuff's real. You're like, oh, it's really a guy in a suit and a really these amigos. And then I learned that it was like, oh, you could go on stage and perform. I think I had my sister was on stage once doing performances. My cousin was on stage. And so I really liked that life. And so I started doing it just for fun, as you know, in my elementary school days for Christmas programs or whatever else they'd throw us into. But it wasn't until 6th grade when I saw Jim Carrey doing things like Ace Ventura. It was specifically Ace Ventura, where I was like, that I want to do that. I want to be the character, this really cool, funny, hilarious character that's like a detective. And
so you liked comedy first.
Oh,
really?
yeah. I drama and stuff. I mean, like superheroes were cool, Batman and all that, but I didn't think of them as like, that's what I want to do. I mostly saw what Jim Carrey was doing. I was like, I love that, because I could do impersonations too. I thought he's using impersonations to make the story happen. And I just thought that was really cool. So in 6th grade, I remember I decided, I told my parents, like, I'm going to be an actor when I grow up. That's what I want to do.
And of course they were like, no.
Yeah, they were like, yeah, you'll figure something else out, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I never did. I once I picked it, that was it. Every year I tried out for plays. I did community theater when I was young. I did a talent show actually in, I think it was 8th grade. And I was playing Jim Carrey from Liar Liar. You know that whole scene where he does the pen is blue?
Yeah.
So I studied that scene and I performed it in front of my whole school. And that solidified it even more for me. Like that was what I wanted to do, was and just entertain people. And
yeah, I think we all, I mean, people that are like you and I, we have a tendency, I don't know, it's like I first started, imitating Muppets on Sesame Street.
Mhm, mhm.
And then when I realized I could do voices, I started, honing that craft, doing
Yep.
impressions. And like you, same, theater, that kind of thing. I actually was in a talent show at 5 years old on stage,
Oh, yeah?
and I was singing,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
and it was in front of hundreds of people. And I didn't have any shame. I just was like, I can, ta-da, here I am.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
so it's interesting, and as you go through the different opportunities that you may have, whether it be theater and things like that, you know, I went to a school that had like a film program that let people edit and stuff on the old
Okay.
wheels, like you could edit
Yep.
linearly, like old
Oh,
school.
yeah.
And so, I was making things back then.
Okay.
But of course, like, my first goal was always, I'm gonna be an actor,
Yeah.
like you, I'm gonna
I
be the
think
next,
because
you know,
that's the greatest form of expression in that field, because you're showing all of what you can sort of, I don't know, give to the audience. When you're directing, you're like, I'm showing it visually, but I don't know, people don't know who directors are anymore. So it's like,
yeah,
oh, who cares?
unless you're the big
Yeah,
names,
unless you're Steven Spielberg or whatever. But even then, some people don't know what he like. If I name a movie he did, they're like, "Oh, he did that? Oh, okay." And it's like, yeah, because Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, all these actors.
I always find it interesting. I try to always tell people, because I've been working in the film industry, even on the crew side, for 20 plus years. I always tell
Yeah.
people, watch the credits,
Yep.
because there's a lot of people, an army of people that work on projects,
Oh yeah.
and so, people don't take the time to ever do it. But now even like networks, they shrink the credits down and they roll them really
Yeah,
fast,
you don't even see them anymore. They're just
only
like,
because they're obligated to do it because of contracts and stuff. When they
yeah,
put it on TV, you have to show the credits, because the DGA and all these other kind of things. But they're like, oh, we'll do it, and we'll do it really fast and just say we did it.
hmm
So they even
hmm
kind of rob people of that.
yeah,
But so you said to your parents you want to be and I did the same. I had the encouragement, but you always get that. Well, maybe you should have something to fall back on.
yes. And my dad. Now, I have to say that is an intelligent thing to say, except I didn't take it as the way I looked at plan B, or as like other career opportunities, was as replacements, not primary, right? So I should have been looking at it as, you need a backup plan as a pillar for what you want to do, which didn't end up being later in life. Like I became an EMT in my 30s on the basis that I could have a job that was secure, but I wouldn't give up film. It was just a pillar holding up the film side until that became more of something I was going to work full time on. So I should have seen it that way as a kid, but we don't see it that way. We just think, no, my passion is film. I've got to do this one thing. And it's like, no, you can do a lot of things, pal.
Well,
You
over
could,
time, you just realize, like when you in your early 20s, or late teens, early 20s, and you're seeing people on screen like Brad Pitt or something, like,
right.
I'm gonna be that. That's me.
Yeah. I'm
And
going to sleep
then
in my car until I
and
get that job.
right, you hear the story about Brad going out to LA with $75 in his pocket, and he was one of the local polo chickens in the
Yeah.
suit,
Yeah.
dancing in front of the chicken restaurant and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
and then he gets discovered. So, and you think you're going to go down that road, and then you realize, then you get into your mid 20s, or then you go, oh, it's okay, maybe that boat, but I can do this. Or and then well,
Well,
Gene,
and you realize that was a different era.
it
Like
was,
the 80s,
yeah,
90s are not the early 2000s. It's a completely different world and a completely
yep.
different career path in later time. And we grew up with oh yeah, you can just go there and get discovered. It's like, yeah, that's when they were discovering people. Now they're done with that. Now they've got plenty.
Yeah, they've got plenty. And also it's all about connections and who you know. I mean, when
Right.
you hear that about the business, oh, it's all who you know. No, it really is all who you know.
It really truly is. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but so when did you, all right, for me, I'll just say this. I never had the backup plan,
Hmm.
because I always looked
Neither
at
did
a
I.
backup plan as setting myself up for failure.
Yep. And I never did
right?
either.
You looked at it as a means to an end.
Yeah, as time went
Yeah.
by, through high school and all that, I did plays still, and I tried to make my own indie films, and they always died. When I say died, I mean like we started making it, and then all of it fell apart for some
Oh
reason
yeah.
or another.
Yeah. Well,
I-
because you're the only one invested in that
right.
project.
Everyone else like, oh, it's cool, fun
This is
project,
cool. I'll do
but
it on the weekend,
whatever.
and then they don't want to bother with it when they're done with it because
Right. And I
Yeah.
get that. I'm like, you guys don't want to do this. I do. And so you're doing me a favor, and it's your time, not mine. So there were like 3 or 4 projects that died before they even had a chance to breathe. And there's only one surviving project from my senior year that's on my YouTube channel. And it was actually a really good movie. It taught me a lot because it was the first time I did something with dramatic intent instead of like a science fiction element or character element. It was just straight up, here's a story, here's some characters, let's see what we do with it. And it did shape the way I thought about film going forward. But anyway, so yeah,
well, and you do in the description of this video, and I'll have some stuff pinned in the comment section. All your social media links. So anybody who watches this, if you wanna follow Tyler, check him out on Instagram, check him out, and then he's got a YouTube channel where he drops stuff as well. But obviously his main, YouTube's not the main thing. The main thing is making movies, and I want to segue a little bit because we're talking about how you had this comedy element and all this, and then you said, well, I did this dramatic piece, and then
well, where that came from, besides the dramatic piece, there was a play in my senior year by my teacher's name was Mr. Boyd, Stu Boyd. Shout out to Stu Boyd, who was one of my favorite mentors growing up. I had a lot of good mentors. But
are you still friends with him?
Yeah, we talk once in a great while. I actually should call him. Thank you for reminding me. But
yeah, well, no, I'm still friends with my theater arts teacher, and he's actually, once he retired, he went back into acting, and he's been landing things. He lives in Georgia, and he's been landing things, commercials and stuff like that, and it's really exciting to see him do this. But he taught at the college level and also high school level. But I always keep that link,
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, yeah. And he was very important to me in terms of like, he saw me when I was in 7th grade perform in a community theater show of On Golden Pond. And he said, I can't wait for that kid to be in high school. And he was true to his word because he'd always put me in plays. And it wasn't until senior year, though, he did The Crucible. And he had me play John Hale, who is this guy who comes to town and thinks that he knows everything. And then he realizes he was wrong, and I really love that character. And I think that shaped the way I liked characters, because before that I was just doing comedy roles and funny stuff just to get people to laugh. And when I did that role, people were surprised by it. They're like, wow, Tyler, I had no idea you could be this kind of a character. And,
oh, you were like they knew you as the class clown.
Yeah, the class kind of funny kid. Yeah,
funny kid. Oh, you're the guy that makes. You're the court jester.
You did the Jim Carrey thing in the 8th grade. Like that's what they remember, and that was cool because it's like that's fine. But yeah, once that Crucible hit, it was like, okay, now I realize how I can temper it. And so from there, after I graduated, I left high school. I moved to California and was like, all right, let me try for more dramatic stuff, but not lose the element of comedy. But comedy is almost ever changing, so it's okay to steer clear to stay with drama. So
well, but also, I mean, if you look at some of the greatest comics, whether it be Robin Williams or whether it even be Jim Carrey, like the transition to drama is very easy.
Oh yeah, Truman Show, like great example.
Yeah, or The Spotless Mind.
Eternal Sunshine
and Spotless Mind.
Or Man on the Moon, like
Man on the Moon. No, you literally, it's such a transition, but it's an easy transition for people that have a background in comedy. I've noticed. But I want to talk about your movie that drops Friday.
Okay, Falling Suns,
and we're going to watch a preview of it here. The links are going to be in the comment section if you guys can. It's going to be available on Amazon Prime Video, so you guys can check it out. And what are the different ways people can watch it? Is it straight buy, or is it
it's a rent or a buy on Amazon?
Rent or a buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
All right. let's watch the trailer, and then what
Do
we
it.
could do is we'll talk about it after the fact.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're going to add this in here.
Look, I know that. Drink the coffee. Drink the coffee.
When are you coming back?
Gotta take care of the family for now. Something wrong? God, yeah, you suck at making coffee. I followed the instructions to the letter. Figured with Dad gone, you could use family around.
Sorry, family? Did you really just use the F word just now?
What's with that box in the living room?
Well, there's a bunch of Dad's old stuff.
Maybe some of it could be valuable. Was there?
You can do this. I'll be right there with you.
He needs you just as much as you need him.
He's doing just fine on his own.
No, he's not.
Is everything just a joke to you? Because it's getting real old.
Where were you the last 5 goddamn years while Dad was dying, bro?
Because I was afraid of becoming you.
Wow.
That's a fun one.
It is. I'll stop in here. I want to. That was a cool shot. falling down into the
That's kind of the signature shot of the whole film, and it took a long time to get it just right because it's 2 different days, and we had to like match cut it, and so you know, and one is at slow motion, the other one's at quick motion, and just having to position it a certain way. But I think it turned out really well. It's one of my like favorite moments in directing history is like that shot.
Where did you shoot this film?
We shot it in kind of Orange County area, Inland Empire area. It was my uncle's house. He let us borrow it for a little while. But this shot, what you're looking at right now, is the Angeles Forest off the 2 highway, which I didn't know existed until the latter couple of years I was living there. And I took a drive down there just looking for locations to shoot our outdoor stuff. And I found not only where we have our climactic argument stuff, but also this vista. And I just thought, this is gorgeous. We have to use this. And we showed up, shot it, took a few hours. No one bothered us. No one was there. It was middle of the week. Yeah, it was stunning.
All right. So set up the movie for us. Tell us what it's about.
Okay, so it's about 2 brothers who are kind of estranged from one another because one of them, who's Jordan, the guy on the right, Dan's character, left and traveled the world, while Malcolm, my character, stayed at home and took care of their ailing father who was dying of cancer. And it took 5 years of like struggle before he finally passed away. And that's where we start the film. Is they're back, the brothers are back together, and Malcolm just despises his brother for being gone, and he shows it. He shows open contempt. And Jordan, though, is very like, no, he's my brother, we'll be fine, we will make this work. And he keeps trying to sort of fix him or solve his problems. And meanwhile, he's dealing with a friend of his who's kind of got past drug addictions. And so he's juggling all of these things. And the whole film is about, well, you can't fix other people. You can only be there for them. But it explores that aspect, and it explores loss and family life and how brothers are. And yeah.
And I take it they're all, these are Irish. It's an Irish family.
No, not really. That hat, actually, it's funny that whenever I do props in a movie, they're always props that mean something to me personally. So the book I'm holding there is actually my journal of all of the films I'd worked on. In terms
wow.
of like,
So you're throwing out Easter eggs for people.
There are a lot of Easter eggs here.
Okay.
That golden rose I've had since I was 16. That's a heartbreaking story. I don't need to go into that.
Oh, she broke your heart.
She did. It was like one of the first
What's her
big
name?
heartbreaks.
Let's call her out.
Her name was Jessica.
Jessica,
I haven't talked to her since. Yeah, broke my heart. But Anyway, that was a gift I had bought her for her birthday, and she broke up with me right before I could give it to her. So I've had it ever since, and now I just use it in movies.
At least you didn't have a tattoo of Jessica.
That's
on you.
true. That would have been.
It could have been worse.
Could have been a lot worse.
All right, what else
but
is in the box?
Well, that hat. What's in the box?
What's in the box?
That hat is actually, I bought that. I got from Walmart a long time ago, 2007. And I remember it specifically because I bought it as my mountain climbing hat because one of my hobbies is mountain climbing. So I took that up with me up every mountain I've climbed over the last 15 years. And I just thought it had a lot of spirit, a lot of character. And I was like, okay, let's just put this in there. So it's pretty significant in the film visually. You can also see, let's see, there's a wooden mask there. That's a friend of mine gave that to me. It was from Nicaragua when he went on his mission. He was Mormon. There's a shemagh there, which is the Nathan Drake shemagh from Uncharted.
Oh, so your dad was an adventurer. Is that what this box
That's kind
is
of the
telling me?
idea. It's I don't know. It was just a silly homage to my life, but it was just stuff I could find that I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I guess that's kind of fun. It gives some character.
Yeah, and it's probably so quick people aren't.
It's so fast you wouldn't notice it, and unless I told you. Yeah, they're not like significant props.
How do you go about casting the roles in your films? Like,
so I do try to avoid casting myself when possible, but sometimes there are characters I just want to play. And
no, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about everyone else.
That's for that part. But for everyone else, so Jody here, who's really super talented actress, came to me through Bridget, my assistant or associate director, who's really my right-hand gal in the whole film. She helped me shoot all of it. And she was really, really good. But she knew Jody, and she said, you would like her. She's fun to work with. Go ahead, bring her on board. I think she'd do well with this. And I asked Jody, and she said, yeah, let's do it. I'd love to be involved. And she came to work. She did a really, really fine job in the film.
It's nice. And when you get people that are committed, that'll come out and really do the work.
Highly, yeah.
This gentleman here.
So that's Chris Hill, and I have known him for about 10 years. We've actually been roommates forever. But we've worked together on quite a number of projects, including Deacon and Oh, the Humanity was a sketch comedy show we did together. But I met him a long time ago, and we just clicked. And he's a comedian too. He's a very funny guy, and I keep putting him in these dramatic roles because I know, like, yeah, you can do comedy, but you want this dramatic side to your acting.
Well,
self.
again, comedy. It's if he's good at it, it's easy for him. You want to challenge him and give him something that's gonna.
Exactly. And I think this role for him is one of the finest roles he's ever played because it's a very unique type of role for him. He's never played something quite like this that I know of. And I just think he did a terrific job. And
you the actor playing your brother in this?
So that's Dan Bennett, and I've known him. He and I worked at Best Buy together. That's where we met. And
nice.
and he helped shoot Deacon. What happened was he was just going to be in Deacon for like a quick scene. And I had a cinematographer literally quit on me a week before principal production began, which is common. This happens to me all the time. I lose cinematographers and editors all the time.
Well, and because they just, they're not as invested in your projects as you are, I get that. Or they have their own project that they're trying to do. And
right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Dan, he came in and shot Deacon because I was like, hey, can you help me shoot this based on all of my shot lists and, storyboards and such? And he's like, yeah, no problem. So I like to reward people who help me by doing something that could help them. And so I was like, Dan, the next movie, let's make you a main character because he just got the small role in Deacon and had to shoot the majority of the film. So I popped him in here, and it actually worked really well. He and I have good chemistry, I think, in terms of, we're obviously friends, but you can be friends and not have on-screen chemistry. And I think he and I bounced off each other so well. We rehearsed every scene days before we do it.
Oh, that's the best when you have that opportunity to do that.
Yeah, we would do it like 2 or 3 days per week because we'd only shot on weekends. So 2 days a week we'd get together and rehearse the scenes we were going to shoot, and we'd enhance them. We'd make them better. We'd make them funnier. We'd make them more interesting. and we just worked together to, I think, bring to life the sort of the feeling of this film. And I think you get that. I think even in the trailer, you see we seem like we're already brothers, and
Yeah,
that's because we kind of are.
How did the story for Falling Suns come about? How did that
So
happen?
that's accredited to myself and Tyler Hickman, who I've worked with a long time now. We met years ago. I did an Uncharted fan film, and he did an Uncharted fan film, and he found mine on YouTube, and he's like, dude, I'm doing one too. We should totally collaborate. And we've just been friends ever since. And a couple of years back, this was 2016, I think, he had visited LA because he was living in North Carolina. And we were hanging out, and I said, dude, we got to just make a movie. Let's just make a feature. We haven't done that yet. We keep, messing around with short films, and that's fine, but let's do a feature film. And we just, in the span of an Uber drive, came up with this story about these two brothers and their dad, and dealing with, and we threw some religion in there, and we're like, that's their story. And so I went out and wrote the script, and we were going to shoot it in North Carolina. We had a completely different cast. I was actually going to play Jordan, the other brother, and everything kind of was on track to get made. And then we lost all of our crew. They just kept dropping out, and there was no time. So I said, well, Hickman, I'll just take the script back and I'll just shoot it out here with my crew, and maybe we'll get it done that way. And sure enough, this happened. And that's when I swapped to be Malcolm, and it just kind of, I don't know, just was better. I think it would have been a different movie had Hickman directed it. Wouldn't have been better or worse. I think it would have been a fine film either way, because I think the source material just works for a lot of people. But
it's interesting because my father passed away back in 2015 from cancer.
I'm sorry about that.
And I have a brother too, and it's the dynamic is similar. I'm actually looking forward to watching the movie when it comes out. I hope
we do justice for some, because I haven't personally been through something like this. So for me writing it, it's like I'm just imagining what it must be like. I've dealt with loss, and I've dealt with estrangement.
And the irony after my father passed away from cancer was, and my grandmother had passed away from cancer, and I mean, people, it's just a thing. It's every people
it's terribly.
If you don't die from that, you die from something else. But it seems like But the thing is, as soon as he passed away, it's like everything I would see on TV was a movie about someone dying from cancer, or I would my wife will say, hey, I found this movie, and I didn't know anything about it, and should pop it on, and all of a sudden somebody's dying of cancer in it, and you're just like, for me, these movies are very emotional.
Yes.
So I'll probably, it's going to pull a lot out of me.
And we wanted to honor people who've been through something like this, because Dan hasn't either, and Hickman hasn't either, but it was like, we're not trying to exploit the concept of someone going through that. It's more of like, we're trying to show the humanity through all of this.
Sure.
And that's why we made it also a comedy. We're like, it's already a heavy subject.
Right. So to make it a dramedy, with some levity throughout, doesn't, it gives people time to breathe in between the heavy stuff. I love that. I love that idea. Yeah. Now you've referenced quite a few times one of your other films, Deacon.
Oh, Deacon. Yeah.
So I want to pull up the trailer for Deacon. And again, I think the thing that I like about the movies that you do is you are not hell bent on one genre. You're like, boom, I'm going here next, and boom, I'm going here next. Yeah. Some people stay in their lane if they make horror movies one after another.
Well,
and I like that you've changed the colors of what you do.
I'll tell you, it's because of Steven Spielberg. Like I love Spielberg films. I grew up on them. You and I grew up on those.
Yeah.
A lot of people balked at them. I'm like, but these are entertaining, great movies. Here's a guy who made the greatest horror film, Jaws. Then he made Indiana Jones, the greatest adventure film. Then he made the greatest movie of all time, Jurassic Park. Then he made Saving Private Ryan, Schindler's List. He was always all over the map. Even like The Terminal and Catch Me If You Can are comedies. And you think anyone can jump around because it's your flavor on how you shoot that makes you the director, not necessarily the material. So I never wanted to get pigeonholed into one category or another. Much as I love comedy, I don't always want to do comedy. Much as I love drama, don't always want to do drama. I love action, don't always want to do action. I want to keep it flavored so that people can walk into a movie that I've made and say, I don't know what to expect, you know, or maybe they think, oh, I didn't like Deacon because I don't like horror movies, but oh wow, Falling Sons is great because I have a brother and we had a father pass away. Or even Liquor Day Saints is an old movie we made where it's like, oh, it's just an office comedy, fun. I can just relax and enjoy
some fun comedy,
shenanigans, or Uncharted adventure, you know.
Let's take a look at Deacon.
Right.
Add it to the stream here.
What is the truth?
All souls aren't innocent.
Sometimes things just don't make sense. Almost daily we get calls about the occult. Suicides, ritual slaughters.
That'll be your duty here.
Can't wait.
I beat her so bad that she almost died.
Starts bleeding from the hands, feet, eyes.
I don't see godly when I look at you.
What do you see?
Aggression.
Mankind deserves an end.
God save you, Deacon.
Wow, yeah. How about that?
I like that one.
So I've seen Deacon. It really lends to psychological. I mean, obviously there's some gore in it, but it's a very psychological film.
Yeah. It was mostly meant to be psychological. I love the movie Seven, and I love movies like Dark City and, you know, those kinds of movies. I'm not much of a slasher fan, but I love noir and I love detective stories and I love mysteries, and I love the psychological element of real humanity and human horror. And this movie was more about the human horrors than it was about the supernatural horrors. Or, you know, my dad walked out of this movie. We had a premiere for it in LA and on like a big screen, and he walked out of it and he looked at me and he said, "That movie was pure evil." And I said, "Thank you, Dad. That's exactly what I was going for."
the ultimate compliment.
Truly is.
Yeah.
But it remains, actually, I really like Deacon. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. And I liked being that character. I thought he was kind of creepy and weird, and it was something I'd never done before. And so it was nice to do it.
What made you pick that?
So
and then having the religious aspect to it, like,
well, I had a friend named Benjamin Scriver who had the concept. So he brought it to me. We were buddies back in I think it was 14, 15. We met up and we were working on something together, a mutual friends project. And he said, we sat down for coffee and he said, "Tyler, I really want to make a movie called Deacon, and it's about a deacon who kills people." And I was like, okay, well, let's write one. And we started writing. It was more like an action story. And I switched it up. I said, what if it was more psychological horror, like very Stephen King, very, you know, The Shining, very Event Horizon, those kinds of movies. And he's like, "Do it, take it, go, run with it, have fun with it." And so I wrote the script and got all my team together and shot this thing in about 6 or 7 months. We had to do a reshoot a year later for a couple of things, but yeah, it ended up being
that with my movie.
Yeah. Reshoots.
As a year later, I picked up 3 scenes. Yeah. Oh, dude. I know it. I've been there.
We did that with Falling Sons. There's a scene in there that's like 3 years later. We had to reshoot because
you just hope no one ages and the haircuts are the same.
We hope for the best. We plan for the worst, but anyway. So yeah, Deacon, stands as one of my favorites. Just I think it's got the darkness that I like. I like dark things, but it's got a lot of symbolism, and there's the cinematography is some of my favorites. I love the color scheme we used. The color blue doesn't exist in the entire film, and that was kind of fun. So yeah.
When you it's funny on some of your projects, it's like someone comes up with an idea or a story, and then you're like, oh, I can do that, and you run with it.
I do. Yeah. Sometimes it's something I'll come up with and run with. And sometimes it's a buddy will come up with it and we'll run with it together. And I think that's the spirit of collaboration. I don't have an ego as a writer. I'm not like, hey, I'm the know all end all of stories. Like, no, I just have some good story ideas, and some people have some good story ideas. And it's about bringing to life all of those great ideas in the best way possible.
Now, where
And,
can people see Deacon right now if they want? Because it came out in 2018. So where can anyone see Deacon?
It's on Tubi. You can find it on Tubi TV, and it's for ads. Unfortunately, we couldn't get a non-ad thing, but I think it is okay. I'm trying to push to stream it somewhere else. It used to be on Vimeo, and then
that's where I saw it. I saw it on Vimeo.
Okay, yeah, it used to be on there, and then we lost that contract through the Film Hub, which we were using to distribute, and so unfortunately it didn't go anywhere else. But now it's on Tubi, so at least people can watch it if they really want to.
It's really cool. When you have actors, are most of them, you shot this one in LA as well, Deacon?
Yeah. Deacon was a very heavy LA project. It was the one and only LA film I've ever made, like strictly LA.
How on locations are tough in LA because like everyone's spoiled, right? Like when you're trying to find locations and actually lock them down can be tough. So when you're doing a horror film, you're looking for rundown buildings or and then you're looking for a church or something that you could film in. How does that work in LA?
The most difficult, LA, it's all about permits and stuff. And so you kind of end up saying, well, if I can't afford a permit, I got to do just private property deals. And
sure,
a lot of it's just where people lived, and we just dressed them up. Like actually the booth where we're doing the confessions is in my apartment, and I just bought a little wicker divider, and I built a little like shelf to make it like, well, this looks like it could pass.
It looks like you're in a booth, it's like a booth. Confessional.
It's depending on how you shoot it. So that's really what it came down to. And it looks great.
That's the beauty about doing things on that level, because you have to be creative in how you pull that stuff off.
Yes. Yeah. So that was one.
I remember always hearing the stories that Spielberg would talk about. Before I saw The Fabelmans, he had told these stories for years about how they would pull things off, in camera and stuff when his buddies would make these little war movies. And then when you see, and sometimes you'd see the 8mm stuff or whatever he was shooting on at that time. It surfaced online, but you see all the tricks he used, and they kind of explored that in The Fabelmans. And it's wild because there were things that I did. I mean, I remember even in high school doing a thing where we would put firecrackers. We would take an oven mitt and put it on a chest and take obviously doing things that I wouldn't do it now. I hire professional pyro guys, effects guys, special effect guys, but we'd have a firecracker, a wildcat. But what we would do is we'd take sandpaper and prep the shirt, like really wear it down, or even put a cut in it, and then fold it with tape on the backside. And we would do the thing with the plastic baggie with blood in it, and we would hook it to a rocket. When you're launching a rocket launcher, and we would wire a black cat, and somebody would lay there and they get ready to get shot, and we'd do it, and you'd have to kind of wait until the fuse lights and the fuse burns, and then boom, and then you'd have to react. But if you cut it right, it would work. But it's amazing the things you can pull off.
You really can. It's just it's about being as clever as you possibly can in dire circumstances. But yeah.
And when you've got LA actors, a lot of them, they're hungry. So when you give them a role that they can do, and it's a big chunk, because I think like 85% of all actors in Los Angeles get 3 gigs a year. And it's usually day player parts. So you're waiting tables all year long, and then you get the cashier number 2, you get the valet guy in that movie, and you get something else. And it's very rare. The top 15% of all actors in Hollywood are are the ones that are constantly working and on
Right. They're
television
on
shows.
kind of a cycle and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
so you can get really good talent that just may not have been discovered yet to work on movies.
Well, and that's how I approached even Deacon. I was like, I want to bring in actors who just want to act. It's not about selling it. Now, we did have Bradley Pierce, who came from the success of Jumanji when he was a kid. He played the Peter, the young kid.
Okay.
And he was great in that. And he did a lot of things in Hollywood. And we met at some point, and he loved the idea of Deacon. And I said, why don't you play the detective and we can have fun with that? And he came to work, and he was so great to work with.
Yeah.
And he worked with, like, he ran camera with, he ran sound if needed be. He didn't care. He just wanted to make the thing.
Yeah.
And everyone was like that in almost every production I've ever been on. People are like, I just want to help make this, because they just believe in whatever the story is or whatever we're trying to accomplish, which would normally take millions of dollars to do. And here we are on what pocket change trying to make these things.
Yeah, but I think, but the thing is, you're getting them out. You're working, and you've had. I saw that you were on ER.
Yeah, I had a bit part as just a gunshot wound victim. You can barely see me, but I did. It was like a day player thing, right? No lines, just a body. And yeah, I had a really fun time on that show actually, because I was just kind of hanging out most of the time with the crew, because I couldn't do much until I was on actual screen for all of one night of shooting. But yeah, it was super fun. Got to meet John Stamos. He was a really nice guy.
Oh, nice. Was he directing?
Yeah. No, he was just there. He was the lead at the time. Mimi Leader was the director, and I'd actually, funny enough, ran into her a couple of times doing background work, and it was just she didn't remember me or anything, but it was like, oh, it's so fun to run into these same names. But Stamos, I'm sitting there laying out on a slab being operated on, and he's at my head, and I'm just like staring up at the ceiling like, oh man, what is my life? What decisions have I made? And he looks down at me, he's like, hey, you doing all right? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. How are you doing? He's like, me? What are you talking about? You're the one on the table there. And I took a moment, and I was just like, hey, I'm Tyler, by the way. And he shakes my hand. He's like, I'm John. Nice to meet you. And he was just really super cool. So.
Well, I think what I like is, I mean, you've just consistently, been crushing it. I mean, I'm looking at your IMDb, I'm scrolling through all your credits right now. It's like, you never, the thing is, I think a lot of people get frustrated and they stop creating, or they give up, and they fall into that trap of the backup plan.
I have had moments where I nearly gave up, and it was little things that brought me out of it.
Yeah.
It was 2008 or 9. I think it was 2008. I had done these short films. One was called Complex, Clarity, and Clock Turn, and they made Clockwork, this feature film that's now just on my YouTube. But I had submitted them to festivals, and I was just nothing was coming from. And I had done a bunch of films up to that point, so I was just burned out, and I was working a dead end job and thinking, what am I doing? What's going on with my life? I'm in my mid 20s at that time, early 20s. And just like, what am I accomplishing here, really?
Yeah.
And I was days away from just throwing in the towel and finding a new career. And then I got a notice from San Francisco International Film Festival that said, we are putting Clarity on our official selection. And I really liked Clarity. It was a great short film. And I was so taken aback by this that I thought, okay, something worked. Something just so small worked, but dang it all if it didn't just, drive me forward. And then from there, I was like, okay, no, I can't give up. I got to keep doing this. And then things would start to pick up, and then they die again. And about 2018, I started getting my EMT certification. And while I was doing it, I was like, am I giving up? Is this what giving up feels like? Am I finally at that point where it's not enough? And ironically, getting the EMT fueled the fire even more, because I ended up writing a screenplay called EMTs that I'm trying to get shot in the next year. And it was like, no, all I've done is broaden my understanding of the world and human beings so I can tell more stories.
Well, I think, and looking at your IMDb, I mean, 57 or 56 credits as an actor, 23 as a director, 27 producer, editor. You know, it's like you've grabbed the bull by the horns and you're just not stopping. And I
Trying
think
not
that
to,
that's important. So many people, you know, on an independent level, you know, they don't have a track record like this. They just
Right.
don't,
Yeah.
because of whatever the circumstances in their lives, you know, it's limited them in getting somewhere. And I just feel like the one thing is, if you don't stop,
Right.
and you know, you just keep making movies, you keep making, you know, you're climbing this ladder. You know, it's going to pay off.
Yeah. Well, and you
Actually
have to
pay
be
off
willing to
now. I mean,
sacrifice, because you know, I don't have, sounds sadder than it is. I don't have like my own family, and I have a house now, but I was living dirt cheap, you know, old cars, old everything. I wasn't living great life strides. I was all about just making the films, and
yeah.
I think that willingness to sacrifice was always something I wanted to do. I was like, I'll do it because I know it could be worth it in the long run. And a lot of people are just like, that's too hard, I can't do it. And I get it. Honestly,
Yeah.
I've been there where I'm like, it's too hard. What am I doing? And then I turn around and say, if I don't do this, I won't be happy with myself. And I just keep fighting that good fight.
But the thing is, like, you know, the only people that really probably get frustrated with the lifestyle is parents that want grandkids.
Sure.
Let's just be honest.
I got siblings. They already have kids. We're good.
Well, see, that's what saved me forever. Cause I have an older sister, 5 years older. She had 3 boys. My brother had 2 kids, his daughter and his son. And I was like the last one to have a kid, and which was my kid's 3. And so if you have that opportunity to, that was always my excuse. They're having the kids. So my mom's happy. Everyone's happy. Yeah. And I can keep making movies. I can keep trying to make movies. I can keep working on, you know, on set. I can keep doing the crew work. And that saves you. But, you know, when you look at things like, getting your stuff on Tubi, getting your stuff on other platforms, streaming worldwide, people are seeing your stuff all around the world.
Well, and ironically, I never really wanted kids per se. If I had them, no big deal. I'd love to have them. Sure. You know, it'd be fun to raise a child. However, I always looked at my films as my children, because they require just as much of attention.
Absolutely. If not more
effort and work, if not more. Sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, those are my kids. And when people watch them, it's almost like when a parent is at a soccer game, or when they're at talent shows or whatever, and their kid's performing really well, and other parents are like, wow, what a great, you know, saxophone player your son or daughter is, and amazing work they do. And so that's how I feel when people watch a movie. It's like you're seeing my creation in the most expansive way that I can possibly communicate. And that is a big thing for me.
This is coming from the chat. I just want to throw this up. Chimed in here, the Nerds Loft. The trailer looks effing fire. I believe he's talking about Deacon.
Either one. We'll go with both.
Chubby. The lighting to this trailer looks amazing for the style of the film.
Oh, okay.
Tyler,
we went with a noir style. I love it.
Tyler's chiming in. Very
Hey,
seven.
Hickman. There he is. There he is.
So, you know, it's nice to, I mean, when you get feedback like that from people, you know, guys, you know, Deacon is streaming on Tubi.
Check it out. Yeah,
the link's in the comment section. So just
we're actually trying to there's a trilogy of Deacon films that are planned, and I've written all of the second one. I've actually written it as a book also, so I'm going to be releasing those this year.
Wow.
But yeah, it gets darker and it gets more sinister as the years go by, and I would love to bring those to life, because I think that as good as Deacon is, like, it's a great film. I wasn't going to do a sequel. And then Chris Hill, who was in it, he said, you got to do more, Ty. It's such a good story. And he helped me come up with like a backstory that fueled the story of Deacon Red, which is the sequel. And it's really dark and sinister, and I love every minute of it. And that's one I'm like, if we can just make that one, we don't need to make the third. It's fine. Third is good, but
sure,
if we just make the second one, that'll be the movie that I've always wanted to make in terms of like dark noir. So
Well, when you're on Tubi, you can rate stuff, right? You can give it a thumbs up and all that.
I
kind
believe
of stuff
so.
too.
Yeah. It helps that algorithm a lot.
Helps the algorithm. Yeah. So
Yeah.
guys, if you check that out, and again, we've got Falling Suns is on Amazon.
Yeah.
This Friday. The link's in the comment section below. And it's good to have someone who just is grinding away that could to have on the show, and to have you here today. Where do you see 5 years from now? I mean, I know like I had Hickman on the other day or a week or so back or something like that. We talked about the Rogues.
Yeah.
I know you've got other things in the pipeline that you're getting off the ground. Do you want to talk about what the future holds next 5 years? Like, what are you thinking?
Well, so I love staying indie. I would love to keep that track. Lost in Time Pictures is my production company. I've had that forever. I've had that since I was 18, 17 even.
Wow.
And so in fact, 17, because the first short film, Essence, has Lost in Time Pictures on it as when it was an island. Now it's a clock, like the one behind me. But yeah, this year I've written 2 scripts, one that I'm going to shoot kind of on my own, and then the other one I'm having my director friend Joss direct, who directed me in a film that's also on Amazon called Lovers in a Dangerous Time, which
I have that trailer, and I was going to play it, and then I was like, wait a minute, they'll copyright claim that.
I don't think so. Yeah.
The YouTube algorithm might, because it's coming from another channel.
Oh, maybe so.
Right?
But I know it's all original stuff, but
it's all original stuff. But they'll, if he doesn't know we're showing it,
that's a good point. Yeah, but yeah, you guys can check it out.
But I think the link is in the comment section below as well, because again, we're streaming on 2 different platforms, so I don't want to get a copyright strike on 2 different platforms.
Sure,
I don't,
of course.
So, but because we can show your stuff because you're here and you're allowing me to. But I worried about somebody else's. What's the name
that's
of
a good point. Lovers in a Dangerous Time. Yeah.
Lovers in a Dangerous Time. So that's another one of your films, or a film that you worked
I'm in
on
that one. I was an actor in that one. I knew Ryan Willer, who wrote it, and Joss I had met on production. He was so much fun to work with. But yeah, he and I are going to work on a movie later this year that's another comedy, but it's got science fiction elements. I don't want to talk too much about that one because it's a really good concept, and I just want people to
you don't want to get that out there, because if it's not ready yet, somebody could snake the idea.
I just finished the script, and it's really solid. I like it a lot. I look forward to just working on it.
And it's sci-fi?
It's got a sci-fi element, but it's a comedy movie.
Okay.
So yeah, it's good though. It's a different kind of movie, but I think people are going to get a kick out of it. It's really clever. Not to toot my own horn, but it's a very clever concept. So there's that one.
You've got that one, and what else do you have?
That one, I EMTs, I wrote, and I have all the resources for it. And then we were actually going to shoot that in November, and then all my crew I lost. Like everyone ducked out, started flaking out, and I was like, oh man, okay. So just not the first time that's happened.
But do a lot of your crew jump on the shows? Because I know you're in a hot spot right now. I mean, everything's being filmed where you're at. So
sometimes, sometimes it's about that. Sometimes they just have personal things going on and they can't commit the time. And I get it. I really understand it. But for me, it's frustrating because I'm like, if we make it, it's done. And it doesn't take long to make these things.
Right.
It's just, and anyway, but so I'm working on that this year. And then Hickman and I are actually working on the Rogues, which you can show that trailer, I believe, which was a action adventure extravaganza. It's like an homage to Indiana Jones and classic Tomb Raider and Uncharted, like the games. And we had a lot of fun shooting that over a weekend. But it's just a trailer. We're trying to pitch that around to really get it some steam. So
here we go.
The Florentine diamond, worth untold millions, this relic once graced the halls of kings, popes, emperors. Having this priceless jewel meant your power was absolute. And then, at the height of World War II, it vanished.
Right. Lost diamond, untold millions, Nazi troubles. Sounds like fun.
Some good news. If you know the Black Sun don't have it. At least, not yet.
And we're going to keep it that way.
then you're gonna need some help.
You realize, of course, we don't get that diamond back. We're all as good as dead.
At least I'll get my beauty sleep.
This is bigger than we thought.
He has an army! Why didn't you tell me he has an army?
As a diamond is, will skin you alive.
The black sun eclipses all. Your end signifies our new dawn.
Come on! Go, 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 go!
That was a fun movie.
Yeah,
I want to watch that.
You know, I think, you know, there's absolutely, you know, a market for this film, you know, after Uncharted, and then you look at Indiana Jones 5 coming out, and people want to get lost in those action adventure films. And so this as a concept to get this off the ground, I enjoyed this immensely. You guys have a battleship, you know, I mean, what you guys were able to pull off with this was fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I've got high hopes for this.
I'm particularly proud of that truck drag, because that's really me on the ground being dragged.
Yeah. Well, when Hickman was on, I told him, I said, nope, you got to get a stunt double for me. I'm not getting dragged. Where's that shot?
You know, part of the fun, I always say it's not a movie until I get hurt.
Yeah. Hold on. Here we go. Let's watch it one more time. There it is. No.
So we were going about, here's what's crazy. We were going about 15 miles an hour, which doesn't sound very fast until you're being dragged with friction on your back from dirt. And we didn't exactly have all of the, let's call it standard stunts.
Safety gear, the stunt
safety,
pads,
that's the word,
harnesses
safety gear.
and stuff.
I had a back pad, so my spine was okay. And I had like a diaper pad, so I was okay there. But we forgot to get any kind of like harnessing equipment. So I ended up just wrapping the rope around my waist, around my belt. God. And it sounds like a good idea until you do it. And yeah, we only did like 8 or 9 takes of that from those 3 different angles, before I was like, I can't do it, or my pelvis will crack.
Let me tell you,
my hips will crack.
And one of the reasons why I say, you know, you got to get a stunt double for me is I did an indie thing back in like high school. We shot this thing, and I said, okay, well, the character gets hit by a car because he runs into the street, and I had watched like a special effect thing or behind the scenes stunt thing, and they showed this person getting hit by a car and how they timed it perfectly, and the person, you know, was able to, you know, jump and then land on the hood, and then and so we were like, okay, we could do that too. I was like, all right, so I'll get hit by the car. And so I let my friend drive the car, and he was going a little faster than what I had anticipated. So when you're talking about 15 miles an hour being dragged, I even think it was only like 25 miles an hour for, you know, when they did Raiders of the Lost Ark, the drag and the thing. But it looks so much faster on film.
It does.
And I was like, okay, just go 10 miles an hour. Just go 10 with the car and I'll time it and I'll jump. And he went a little faster than 10. And I ended up timing the jump wrong and clipped my legs, threw me up on the hood, slid all the way up the glass. I didn't break the glass, but ended up on the top of the car, and my hip felt like somebody hit it with a baseball hammer, and I limped forever. I don't know what kind of damage I did to it. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't tell my mom. We were filming again and I got hit by the car. I didn't tell her. And like, ever since then, I'm just like, no. No.
I will do stunts on the basis that I know how, because I've done enough of them where I'm like, I know how to take a fall. I have been hit by a car. It was one of the first stunts I ever did in a movie called Equinox back in 2006. It was one of mine. And it was the first feature film I ever made. and my character gets hit by a car, because that's the thing you think about, right? You did it. I think every indie filmmaker has ever been like,
Every
get
indie
hit by a car.
filmmaker
It's a
gets
great
get hit by a
stunt.
car.
And you think it's
not that
easy.
it's a great stunt. You're like, it's good production value if you get hit by a
Right,
car. It'll make it look like we're really doing something.
We're really in it. We got this.
And you're
No.
just like, no.
I took that hit like 16 times, and we were only going maybe 5 or 6 miles an hour. But yeah, I felt it, because I would fall off onto the concrete because I didn't have pads or anything. And yeah, I was hurting for days after that.
I took that hit
a young
once. 16? You're
Yeah.
insane. I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
I can't believe you did that.
Yeah.
Um,
But I've fallen down stairs. I've done fight scenes. I've fallen off 30-foot cliffs into water. We did that for Uncharted. That was terrifying. It was cool, but it was like, I would look over that edge and I'm like, what if I don't jump far enough and I hit this rock that's right 2 feet sticking out? And eventually I just went for it, and I had to do it twice. And both times, the first time was fine. I went over and I was like, okay, that was fine. The second time, my shoes were a little slippery. And so I slipped slightly, and I did the landing correct, but it was still like, there was a danger that I might have severed something.
Oh, and see, and obviously on the big shows, you can't get away with any of that.
No.
The Nerds Loft said something that caught my eye in the chat. The part where you calmly leaned away from the gunshots while taking notes or reading the book. Love these indie films made with love. I'll tell you what, when I saw that shot, I'm going to tell you where I think you stole that from.
I would love to. If you guess it right, you get some 100 points.
You took it from, that's Pierce Brosnan and GoldenEye.
That's absolutely GoldenEye, Pierce Brosnan.
Yes, I knew it.
To the point where we matched it. Like I showed the camera guy, I'm like, this is what we're trying to do. And I had to set it up. Certainly,
I knew it.
And I still didn't get it right. It's off by a little, but
the angle's different, but and he wasn't reading a book. He was reloading, or
he was charging a timed mine, or a remote
was
mine.
What he was doing. Yeah.
And so I was like, but we love that idea. And we're like, you know what? Screw it. Let's homage.
He's like
James
busy
Bond
doing
movie.
his thing, and then
he's just
they're
taking
shooting at him, and he's like,
just whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's the symbol of James Bond, is like, bullet ricochets, whatever. And
dude, I am so glad I called that, because it's like it's stuck in my head, that shot of James Bond with Pierce Brosnan. When that happened, I'm like,
two James Bond shots in the movie, in the trailer, that we were kind of going for. The first one is GoldenEye. The second one is being dragged by that truck and the gun forward is the poster for Skyfall, because we loved that poster so much. And we're like, let's try to duplicate that in motion. And we had to have a car next to it driving, getting it at that pace. And it was so cool. And so I'm so glad that we had like a little Bond-esque kind of look going on in here.
Yeah.
Even the way my character's dressed is very GoldenEye, like at the end where he's got the vest and the, all that
paying homage is always a good thing.
And Brosnan's my Bond. Like GoldenEye's my favorite Bond movie. So,
dude, you know what? I love GoldenEye. I liked the others, but I wasn't like totally in on them. But GoldenEye is still like pinnacle Pierce Brosnan.
It's
out of all his
still
films, that
movie.
is it still holds up till this day.
Yeah.
And I know everyone jumped on the Daniel Craig bandwagon, and everybody thinks Casino Royale is the best one ever. I like those films. I enjoy them, and I've seen all of them. I've seen every James Bond ever made.
Yeah.
But GoldenEye, for some reason,
GoldenEye. You know, it's funny. Casino Royale is directed by Martin Campbell, who also directed GoldenEye. So
interesting.
Like they're very similar.
Both franchises, or both Bonds, if you will.
Yeah, he did. I think because they liked him so much, they're like, "You're our Bond action director. Let's get you in there." He also did Mask of Zorro and No Escape, whole bunch of movies.
A lot of adventure stuff. So Cole Turner in the comment section, what's the craziest stunt you ever did?
Probably that truck drag. Honestly, it's between that and the cliff dive. Both were pretty crazy, but I think the truck drag was painfully crazy. The cliff dive is like all you do is fall correctly, but doing the truck drag, it's like you can seriously get hurt doing this. And
disclaimer: don't try anything like this.
Don't try any of this
you're
stuff.
out there doing it. I mean, don't.
Yeah,
this is, it is what it is. I mean, we do crazy stuff when we're trying to make waves and trying to create our art. On a certain level.
Well, I think that shot also is what people look at and they're like, "Wow, this looks cool," and it starts the whole trailer off. And
that and the M60.
M60 works. Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of cool stuff.
Tell
in
me
there.
you got to shoot that and not just.
I didn't know. I got to shoot the Makarov, which was like
right.
it
The
was a real
handgun
pistol, but it
sitting in
was
the.
plugged.
Yeah, but still, man, like I would have went out of my way to say, you know what, why don't we just get one shot of me doing that?
Well, here's what sucks. There's a poster of me holding this thing called a mare's leg, which is a real gun. It looks like a shotgun, but it's actually a pistol that's like, you know, nine inches long barrel. And I had bought that really specifically for this production because I wanted to utilize this, and it's not in the trailer anywhere. And like you barely catch it in little frames. But that was the one, like, that's such a fun weapon to shoot, and it looks cool. It looks like something out of the Old West.
That one.
Yep, that's it. Yeah. Yeah. It's a signature Old West gun. It's like, that's going to be the Grant gun. That's, you know, who my character is, Grant. So
nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But
yeah.
It made it into the poster at least. So I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, maybe, actually, you know what? It's going to make it into the movie as well.
Oh, it will. Oh no, I'm pushing for it. Like it's in the movie, in the actual script, he is given that gun toward the end. And so he uses it for the rest of the film. And it's like, yeah, you better let me use it because
something
awesome.
tells me you're going to get that opportunity.
I'm hoping so. Fingers are crossed.
I don't think there's hope in it. I think it's going to happen. So
it's just inevitability.
It's inevitability.
I think so. I think it's a good looking movie. And I think that we have a solid script and a fun crew. And I think people are craving just fun action adventure that isn't campy.
Yeah.
That's the thing we're trying to avoid, you know.
They also don't want you know, I mean, it's been so hard with COVID and the economy and all sorts of stuff that everyone's just kind of, and they want that escapism. They want movies like this with adventure and fun, and they don't want a depressing, you know, gritty crime drama.
That's why with Falling Sons we did comedy, because we're like, it's already so dark and depressing, and people don't want to be depressed. They want to enjoy the movie and go back and rewatch it and find their favorite parts. And why not try to you know, make your movie a little more akin to that? It's nice to do the depressing, dark stuff, but I don't know. It's just people respond better to the lightheartedness, but not campy. And adventure, unfortunately, the adventure drama, a lot of things have become campy, and it's like, that's fine. Like, I like The Lost City. I thought it was a fun movie, but it was a little campy.
Yeah, I saw The Lost City. Yeah,
it's like, where's Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it had a grit, but it was just fun. Like, here we go. All right, now he's gonna fight this guy by the airplane. Okay, now he's going on this truck convoy to get the Ark. Okay, now it's
interesting how those films progressed. The Indiana Jones films, they went for comedy with each film.
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more.
Oh yeah, well, that's the gun, you know, shooting the swordsman, even though that was like, because Harrison Ford was sick.
Yeah,
it's still like so funny.
Yeah,
but it's not meant to be funny.
Not
it's just
meant to be funny. It's just like, you're like, oh, tongue in cheek. But yeah, circumstantial. But then they kept going, and I think Last Crusade almost had more comedy than any of the
went
films.
Further with funny, like the guy in the tunnel on the plane, like outrunning them. It's like, that's silly, but it's funny and it's charming, because like, oh, that's interesting, and it's not done silly. They're just like, they look at each other and
well, I always just, you know, I felt like Marcus Brody's character, played by Denholm Elliott. I felt like he was such this wise person in the first film, and when they brought him back, he was this campy, goofy guy that got lost in his own museum, and I never got that from the first film. Never, you know, he was always, you know, this is like something you've never gone after before.
Even Sala is kind of more funny in the third one than he is in the first.
Yeah, everybody, I think, was at the point where we're just going to have fun with it and be silly and be jokey, and then of course it just kind of got a little bit more than that. But I hope they go back to the roots with this last one. But Tyler, thanks. We're going to wrap this up. I want to thank you for being here today. Fallen Sons is on Amazon Prime. Link in the comment section. Check out Deacon on Tubi. Check out all of the links in the comment section, your social media. Start following this guy, because look, you're going to keep making movies, and you know, I hope everyone supports you in that process, because it's not easy.
Well, I love entertaining people. I think it's nice to get a little break from life, and life is tough. And it's, I just want to be the guy that's like, here, you watch this thing, be entertained for a couple hours, just get away from your life for a second, you know?
Yeah, it was great having you on, and stay on because we'll go in the back room. We'll talk a little bit more, but thanks for being here today. And I hope everybody enjoyed you.
It was a real pleasure.
All right.